I saw a thing, actually, a study that said speaking in front of a crowd is considered the number one fear of the average person. I found that amazing. Number two was death. Death is number two? This means to the average person, if you have to be at a funeral, you would rather be in the casket than doing the eulogy.
So now for a brief outline of the show. The show obviously stars Jerry Seinfeld, who's a comedian in New York City. And pretty much it's about him and four friends that all live together in a New York City apartment. The show's obviously a comedy, and it really started a trend within sitcoms because it was labeled the show about nothing, which pretty much means that Jerry Seinfeld and his four friends all lived together, and they really didn't do a whole lot. There was nothing too crazy that went on in the show, but it had pretty good constant comedy throughout the show. And what they mean by the show about nothing is that although nothing really huge happened in the show, like I said, it did have that constant humor. Now, it takes place in New York City, like I said, and in the apartment building, they experience a lot of the craziness that goes on in New York City. And they're all single friends, which kind of added more drama to the show. And it definitely added more comedy to the show as well. And the other stars of the show are Julia Louise, Michael Richards, and Jason Alexander.
Seinfeld started in 1989 and finished in 1998. It was produced by Wes Shapiro and Castle Rock Entertainment. It was distributed by Columbia Pictures. It started as the Seinfeld Chronicles, created by Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld, developed with NBC executive Rick Luedman. It was originally rejected by NBC and Fox until Rick Luedman picked it back up for NBC and aired it. So Seinfeld Chronicles started poorly with audiences because they thought it was weak. So in the first season, it only had 5 episodes, and it wasn't until the third season that it would have 23 episodes. Production, it was filmed in Studio City, California at CBS Studio Center. In production, they had problems because the sets were so small, especially in Jerry's apartment. Seinfeld is a trailblazer sitcom because they displayed hangout vibes. So shows like Friends and That 70s Show followed in the footsteps of Seinfeld. And Seinfeld also differentiated from sitcoms because they never had their characters learn from their mistakes as well. Networks. So it was developed by NBC, and in terms of streaming, in 2015, Hulu had the streaming rights to all episodes of Seinfeld. And then in 2017, Amazon Prime acquired the streaming rights for all seasons of Seinfeld. And then announced in 2019, Netflix acquired the streaming rights for Seinfeld, which will start in 2021. Also, Viacom acquired the cable syndication rights from TBS. So now in 2021, it will premiere on like Paramount Network, Comedy Central, and TV Land. Salary negotiations. So Seinfeld was one of the first to have like their actors have a say in their contracts and more equal pay. In terms of actual salaries, the main character, Jerry Seinfeld, he made $20,000 per episode in the first season, and then that doubled to $40,000 per episode in seasons 2 and 3. And then in seasons 4, 5, 6, he made $100,000 per episode. And then seasons 7 and 8, he made $500,000 per episode. And in the final season, he made $1 million per episode, making him the first television actor to make $1 million per episode. And then the supporting actors, co-stars, so Julia, Jason, and then Richards made about $600,000 per episode. They were some of the like highest paid 90s sitcom stars. And then what days did it air? It aired on Wednesdays at 9:30 p.m. And then that was later moved to 9 p.m. And then midway through season 4, it was moved to Thursdays at 9:30 p.m., making the show even more popular. And then NBC offered Jerry Seinfeld $5 million per episode for a 10th season, so $100 million, but he declined it. And home media, Sony Pictures, they released in 2007 the Seinfeld Complete series on DVD. And the afterlife of the show, according to Warner Brothers Entertainment, Seinfeld made an estimated $4.06 billion as of February 2017 in just syndication. And in terms of advertising, advertisers made a lot of money because of Seinfeld's popularity. So, for example, American Express made a commercial with Jerry Seinfeld and an animated Superman. And then also a recurring feature in Seinfeld is they use like actual um, products. So like Junior Mints, they use this as a product and as a main plot point in one of the episodes called the Junior Mint.
What are you eating? Junior Mint. You want? No.
Who is an auteur? What is an auteur? Why did they use the French word instead of just saying the word author? In his article, Limits of TV Auteurism, Panawazik says, the auteur principle is the idea that a great series can be the expression of a singular artist's vision. But what if there's more than one author, so to say, such as in the case with Seinfeld, where you have Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David writing the show? Breslin argues in another article called The Golden Age of TV, Rise of Television Auteur, that this isn't necessarily impossible and is becoming increasingly common. So let's take a look into Seinfeld to see if there is an auteur, and if so, who it would be. First and foremost, we have Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld, like I said. Both of them wrote the show and started and ended the show together. But this doesn't necessarily mean that they were both there for the entire time, as you will see soon. Larry David was an inconsistent writer. He purely wrote and he didn't set the tone. By this, I mean that he left the series many times, and it's even noted that when they learned they were getting a full 23 episodes, he cried because he didn't want to do that. So he kept leaving the show and coming back throughout the entire run, and the tone never changed when he left. It was always just Seinfeld. So on the other end, we have Jerry Seinfeld, who was there for the entire run and based the show off of his own life story as a comedian. And he also started to focus a lot on other characters as the TV series went on, meaning that he started to see himself less as an essential part of this story and more as someone writing the lives of the other characters. So this would imply that maybe Jerry Seinfeld would be more in line with what it means to be an auteur than Larry David. So what did our group decide? We decided that there isn't necessarily an auteur on this show. Seinfeld holds creative control, but he never really directed the show. He was mainly there to write and act in it. And David left so often that he couldn't be a reliable author. Imagine a book series just all the way halfway through the series have like chapters written by a different author. It wouldn't make sense and the tone might change. But considering this one didn't, we don't think he'd be the auteur either. And according to Panawazik's definition, neither of them had a singular vision, which just wouldn't fit Panawazik's definition.
So what even is quality TV? And would Seinfeld be considered a quality television show? Our Creeper reading would tell us no. But this is because Creeper's criteria for quality is more representative of dramas and not sitcoms. His criteria actually almost entirely excludes sitcoms. One reason for this is that sitcom styles tend to reflect a more average everyday life, meaning that their costumes and sets don't look super exceptional. But we do think that this show is quality for a number of reasons. Because of its iconic editing and sound, its unique storytelling, the roles that the characters play, and the awards the show has won. The slap bass throughout the show is consistent all throughout the show. It's a unique style of segueing between scenes and is iconic and has become synonymous with Seinfeld. By the end of the show, the editing is faster, almost like the scenes cut from joke to joke. This speed makes Seinfeld stand out for its comedic presentation. The show also has a really unique style of storytelling. The show starts with Jerry Seinfeld doing a stand-up routine, and this routine is what guides the narrative of the show. Nothing has ever been done like that. It adds a layer and a level of depth to the show and connects a number of ideas and plots together in order to produce a well-rounded story. The roles of the characters are also quality. Each character has a multi-layered role in the show. They are very complex. Elaine appears to be a normal, high-functioning member of society. She is independent and maintains a successful job as an editor, but in actuality, she is a complete narcissist and has no sentimentality. This makes her fit in with the group and leads to some pretty funny interactions, but still makes her appear normal enough. The show has also won a ton of awards. The show is critically acclaimed and has been nominated for 68 Emmys and has won a total of 10 Emmys, proving that critics themselves believe that the show is high quality.
Hi, I'm Noel, and if you've heard things like yada 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 or no soup for you, then you can probably attribute that to the 90s great television show Seinfeld. And although the show claims to have been talking about nothing, it's clear that there were many different topics and some that were more intense than others throughout the progression of the show. So I decided to focus on 5 of those topics, being cultural taboos, the rise in popularity of anti-heroes, the importance of technology in daily life, leisure and wealth disparity, and societal liberalness. So starting with the first one in cultural taboos, there were a lot of shows that were popular in the 90s, like Saved by the Bell and Full House, but those shows were more clean cut. So Seinfeld represented a place where it could be for adults and they could talk about more things that were more hush hush when it came to the topic. So things like sex, poverty, gender. So for example, being able to say that one of the episodes, the contest, where they talk about who can go the longest without pleasuring themselves, is a topic you really wouldn't find on other shows. But because Seinfeld conveyed this casualness to it and a more accepting environment, it became popular to try to normalize things that society hadn't really seen as normal at the time. The rise in popularity of anti heroes. So throughout the show, it's clear that if you really think about the actions and the thoughts of these characters, they're not really the best people. So Seinfeld does a good job of creating and wanting the audience to root for the anti-hero, which is not common given the protagonist's role. But Seinfeld, especially in the last episode where they're in jail, a lot of fans didn't like how it ended on it. But Jerry Seinfeld himself said these people are not supposed to be seen as good people. They're supposed to pay the consequences for their actions. But the fact that people are still supporting them shows an inherent way of the human psychology. Later, the technology and leisure that combined to show New York City lifestyle. So similar to the Friends episode where the jobs don't really add up to the finances and the lifestyle that the characters are living, it's only clear that Elaine is the one with the most stable job, and from time to time George. However, people like Kramer, who doesn't hold a job continuously throughout the show, but still manages to live the kind of same lifestyle and in the same apartment complex as the other characters, shows that's very unrealistic, especially for New York City. Jerry Seinfeld himself seems to have unlimited money, even though he's a comedian, and also unlimited time to go on these adventures with his friends. So another thing that we were able to enjoy is that the group is able to enjoy weekly outings and finance their endeavors and their experiments that they want to do, but the jobs that they hold don't really support that lifestyle. So it's kind of creating this false aggrandizement of how lifestyle is for these New York people and people in general on sitcoms. And finally, societal liberalness. So as the show progressed, it became more and more liberal. However, I'd say by today's standards, it wasn't very progressive or as liberal as liberals are today. So there were several mentions of gay characters, but they were never shown in a progressive light, and they were kind of treated more as like a shock factor or creating a difference in like a sea of commonality. Another thing was showing the working woman. So Elaine represented somebody who's working in corporate America, is hardworking, driven, and compared to shows like I Love Lucy, where the characters are staying home, it shows that women were progressing and becoming more involved in corporate leadership and the job market. Another taboo topic, but represented a difference and change in social liberalness was the issue of divorce, where George's parents were divorced, but this show did a good job of normalizing it and trying to figure out and realizing that many characters go through something like this and trying to make George feel more at home with the idea of his parents being divorced. All right, thank you.